Welcome. So, for those of you that have gone to these tech talks at the beginning of the year, or since the beginning of the year, you've seen us progress from doing them uh, at a location in Bothell, and now we have pivoted to doing webinars. We're giving this a try just so we can record it and so we can hopefully reach more people. So, thank you for being here and being part of this new direction we're going. Mary Burris is our CEO and owner. I'm Josh Jerobic. I'm the COO for SisAdmin. And Sarah Burris is our event coordinator, and she has done a great job of making this whole thing happen and helping us pivot to this. Blake is our business development rep. Claudine also joins Sarah in making this whole thing happen. And then Miles Johnson's on here, and he's one of our ProServe AI engineers. And so if you have any technical questions while we're on here, he is ready to field those. So I think that is it for intros. Mary, if you want to take it away.
All right. Thank you very much. Yeah, today it's gonna be a workshop. I'm gonna put you to work, and you're gonna come away with an AI policy that you can implement within your organization. I think the very first AI policy, though, only had one line in it, and it said, "Don't put the company database into AI." But the problem is, somebody had to have done that in order for it to become policy. So today we want to hopefully keep you guys from having those kind of disastrous things happen by setting some ground rules, getting letting your people not only know what they shouldn't do, but actually have some common like the actual practical work. So how I built this is I had my attorney write up 2 AI policies. And one of them, if you're saying you don't want AI at all in your organization, then let me know. I can send you that document and you'd be done for today, because there's really nothing to do except for have them sign that and don't do it. But most of us all know that we need to do AI, and it's critical to our businesses and the survival of our businesses, actually, to do it and to do it well. So my job is to help you do it, but do it safely. And so we're going to start with that foundation of those guardrails and of letting your staff know what they can and cannot do. So we've got a document that is based with the attorney part, and then I've created some appendix, which is the real world practical stuff that they need to know how to actually adhere to the legal part. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm not really going to change the legal part. I want that to stay legal. We're going to go through the appendix. But before we do that, I want to talk about shadow AI. I almost said IT because that's where it started. It used to be shadow IT, but now they're coining the phrase shadow AI, and that is your biggest risk because the fact that you're here means you don't have an AI policy, which means that foundation isn't there yet. And what you're running into is that well, I guess some people may not even know what shadow AI is. So let me back up a little bit. Shadow AI is where if you don't give your staff the tools and the functionality they need, they're going to go find it. And you may not necessarily know about it. And if they're going to do it, they're going to do it probably with free software, because they don't have the funds to support the tools that you need, and they're not going to be configured securely. And this statement right here is what makes it so dangerous, is that if an application is free, your corporate data is the product. So kind of want to hang on that for a second because that's an important factor for you to realize. So it's really important that there's a process around your applications and which ones you use and how they're configured. And we're going to talk about all that today. There's, when I meet with new prospects, I usually get three different statements but mostly two different statements that they say when I talk about their AI. They either say, we're not doing AI. And then in the back of my mind, I was like, oh yeah, you are. You think you're not, but I can guarantee unless you have a policy saying that they are not allowed and you haven't given them that, they're probably doing it. They're just not telling you. And then the other one is, yeah, we're doing it, but we're just dabbling in it. We've got a couple of free apps with ChatGPT and Claude, but they're just, we haven't really chosen one yet. They're just free. And then that scares me even more because you are putting data in and there's no ground rules as to what you can put in. So we're going to go through that today and set those ground rules. So I'm excited to have you work with me on this. So on the legal part of it, we're going to talk about data privacy, IP protections, and what they're not allowed to do. Okay. So I'm going to be kind of bopping between the PowerPoint and the actual document because, like I said, this is going to be an actual workshop. So I want you all to have the policy open on your desktop too. Right now, we're going to go just kind of skim through what the legal part of it says. But then eventually when we get to the appendix, we're going to actually you're going to start filling it out for your company. So obviously put your company name there, and then I'm not worried about going through the scope and all that. We're going to start at acceptable use, ethics, respect, and human rights. AI brings a little new twist to this. Of course, your people want to be respectful and they don't want to be discriminatory or biased or unfair. But with AI, if you're only inputting information into a learning model that is all of one perspective, it's going to be biased, and which is going to turn into being unfair. So it's important to keep that in mind if you're creating your own model and having it be learning from you. A lot of the beginning part is you don't want it to learn from you, but eventually you may want it a section where you are learning from you. So keep that in mind. Transparency and explainability. Because AI can be wrong, it's really important that you're aware of how it's coming about its decisions, and that it's transparent as to how it's either calculating or it's bringing up and to its conclusions. Unless it's very technical, then you've got to have some other safeguards in place. Data privacy. This is why most of you are all here, right? You want to make sure that your company's data is private, and down in the appendix area, we're going to talk about your data privacy and the confidentiality part of it. And we're going to break up what kind of data you have and what apps you're allowed to use them in, and who's allowed to use them and in what ways. So we're going to dive into those quite a bit. The security, once once you actually have the policy that says what you can and cannot do, and then you've got the practical use down below, your IT department still has work to do. There's infrastructure things, as many things as you can take out of your users' hands and put into rules into the application, the better. That way, um, that way mistakes can't be made. But there's still going to be stuff that is going to be their responsibility. IP protections and intellectual property. This section just reminds us that even though AI can draw up all kinds of images and writings and text from books or articles, those things still belong to somebody else. And so you need to be aware of when you need to just give them rights to it or credit for it in anytime you're publishing their information and when you can't, when it's not yours, you have not paid for it. So, and again, it's the same thing for your IP information, right? You don't want, you want to make sure that people are adhering to your information, but also the fact that all of this stuff that is being created by AI is your IP. Let's see, what else do I want to say about that? I think that's pretty, the copyright, again, there are copyright laws. These things, and if in your own copyright, if you're changing and modifying, if AI, you're putting something that's copywritten, even like your logo may be copywritten, and if AI is modifying it, it may mess with your copyright. So it needs to be documented, any changes that are happening. And let's see, roles and responsibilities. Management role is to make sure that they are providing the infrastructure so that your employees can adhere to this policy. The IT department's job is to put in the infrastructure to maintain and secure it. That's our next tech talk actually is starting to get into the actual governance of it. But in the below in the appendix, we're starting to create the structure of that. But once that's in place, the user's responsibility is they've got to make sure that they're using it responsibly. And the first part of that is to make sure that it's not sending out misleading or false information. They've got to follow the laws, the copyright laws, the IP laws, your rules and regulations. They've got to follow the links to make sure they're getting correct and good information. They need to narrow their searches to reputable places. There's a lot to learn for them to be able to do it safely. And again, AI makes things so easy that we have to remind them we cannot use AI to do any of these terrible things or break laws. So that's in there too. Breaching. So when you send this out, you need to let them know that not only is this a risk for the company, it's potentially a risk for them, because if they harm the company or if they harm somebody else's company, it could become a legal action and they could get wrapped up in that. So these things are not just put here just because you're trying to make it harder for them to do their job. It's important, and you've got to, you know, support it, right? The other thing I'm recommending is that it basically says you need to review this on a regular basis, but policies, most companies, they're lucky if they review their policies annually. In this particular case, I feel strongly this should be looked at like every 6 months with your IT team because things are changing so fast. The company we're partnering with on doing trainings, they look at their training material every 3 months. They don't have any contracts any longer than that because things change so quick. As I've written this document, things got added as I was writing it. So we're going to get into the appendix, but I'm going to run back over to my PowerPoint real quick. And so these are the areas we're going to go to next. Basically, I want to set some structure around what apps are allowed in the organization and set the boundaries that they need to be approved. They cannot just install whatever they want, and that you're going to be watching, and if we find things that are installed without approval, you're going to come find them. There's going to be some banned tools, some things that you don't want them to do. And then we're going to talk about how we're going to classify your data and what kind of data do you have? What do you want them to do or not do within your organization? So anyway, let's get started on that. So the first section here is your tools. So does everybody have your documents in front of them? Okay. And I want you to start before we actually like go and choose these other fields. Let's just add the tools. So I want you to list all of the tools in this column A that you guys are currently using that you're aware of. So, and as you're doing that, keep doing it while I'm talking because I'm just going to keep you busy. If you are using ChatGPT, is it a free version or paid version? And if you're using both, put them in 2 different lines, right? Same thing with any of the other tools. Is it paid version or free? And as you're writing all of those, now think about your line of business apps. What of your line of business apps have now got AI built into them? Okay. I happen to know that HubSpot currently has AI now in it.
Would you, Mary, just clarify the question? So since we use ChatGPT within SisAdmin, would you want another company to break out whether you use ChatGPT and Codex? Like, would you want that specifically stated? Because Codex is a little bit more powerful. Or is that just kind of under the ChatGPT umbrella?
What matters is whether you're going to have a different use case for it, right? So if it's going to have different rules attached to it, then it definitely needs to be its own line.
Okay.
So good question. Feel free to raise your hand or put something in the chat if you guys have any questions on what you guys are using or what's out there. And you guys may not even know exactly what's out there. um, that's one of the things of you guys that are our customers. We do have the monitoring capability to give you a list so that you'll know what shadow AI is already going on in your organization. So, but list the things that you know, and I'm assuming everybody is pretty close to being done. If you want to raise your hand, that way I know whether to move on.
See the guy had a question. So would we include Copilot,
Yes,
right?
most definitely.
And then if you include Copilot, I'm just going to add to his message there. So the behind the scenes of Copilot, isn't that Chat GPT? So would you by default put chat in there
No,
also, or
no, because it uses the Chat GPT as its base, like it,
sure?
but it's made it its own product.
Okay.
It's not Chat GPT anymore. It's now called Copilot.
All right.
So it's like it's rebranded it. So it
Got it.
is Chat GPT rebranded
Got it.
and modified for them. So
And would you want
um,
would you want them to link, if they linked anything to like Outlook, like if they have Copilot and they're linking to Outlook from it, would you want that broke out on this?
no, we're not talking about links at this point.
Okay.
But that brings up a good point um, that we'll talk about in the data, like um, data sources. When we get to the data sources, then that'll be like Outlook will be one of your data sources, and they'll create what they are allowed or not allowed to do.
Yeah. So I got a couple, Mary, got a couple hands up. I'm looking at Colin's hand up right now. So Colin, if you want to go.
I did ask them to raise their hand if they were done.
Oh,
So so
Roger
if
that.
if you guys are done, just raise your hand so that we know. But if you guys are still working, that's fine. If you want to start, those of you that are done, you can start kind of doing like your approved use case. Um, like there, when let's say you have ChatGPT free and you have ChatGPT that is the paid version that's locked down. So the free version, you only want marketing and sales information that is um, completely already out in the public, right? Um, but anything else is going to want to be in a paid version.
All right. Looks like we've got most hands up. So
Okay.
you keep moving forward. Oh, we have one more question down here. So how would we know? So guys says how many, correction, how would we know how many free versions we have or what users may be using?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying is there are tools to audit that.
That's our next tech talk.
That
It's a great question. How do you govern that?
yeah.
After you make a rule, how do you check on it? Well,
Yeah.
we're going to
Yeah.
talk about it in September.
Yeah, there are tools out there. Like I said, for our clients, we have tools already installed that can give that information. So I would start with your IT provider and ask them if they have tools that have that capability. If they don't, um,
Should we
Josh or
add?
Sarah, why don't you make a list or of things? Um, I'll follow this up when we send our thank you email afterwards, and I'll put in there some links to some tools that you may want to look at for your organization. Okay.
All right. Seems like we got most hands up. So Mary, if you want to keep moving
Okay.
forward, I think we're ready.
So, all right. So why don't everybody kind of put their hands down and we'll move on to this. And then when we're done with this chart, I'll have you put your hands back up. So now I want you to fill out the chart. So, approved use case. So if you like, you may like here we have ChatGPT and Gemini. So why do you have two different, there may be different departments that have different features, different needs. So like Gemini is good at graphics. So we want Gemini used in the marketing department. But for the legal department, maybe they want Claude because it's does better with legal, more text, but it depends on, what your needs are. What is the use case? And it may just be that, hey, this is our general purpose AI version. A lot of people give Copilot to everybody. And because it's a very safe environment, because it's built into Microsoft, it comes out of the box and it's safe. But with these others, you may not want to have, just for cost reasons, you may not want every department to have it. And then, are there data restrictions? Again, there might be these bigger products, you may not have a lot of data restrictions except for adhering to the company standards. So this is a perfectly good example to just use if that works for you. But if there's an AI that's built into one of your line of business apps, you may have more specific restrictions. Like if I don't know, if you had an RFP system that had AI in it, you may say it's free to use within the app, but you don't want it integrated with a different tool. I can't say exactly what you're going to need, but if you're aware of restrictions within that too, and if somebody's got an example of something like that, feel free to speak up and share. And then if there are specific people, like this person that I was talking to, they gave ChatGPT to all their staff, but then the leadership staff had Gemini as well for different reasons.
I got a question here from Peter. Is this list referring to only to AI installed on company issued equipment? That's one question. And I use AI on my personal phone, but certainly use the information provided in my daily work.
Yeah. So that's actually talked about below. So maybe I'll just leave it for that section, but it is addressed. But this section here is anything that that is company managed is what's here, because this is what you're allowing people to do. Okay, so this is what your department is going to manage. Bring your own device is different, but it's like, it's your choice. Are you going to allow them to install the company software onto their personal devices? That is a choice that's outside of this document that you have to decide.
I have one more question, Mary, if I may,
Mhm.
from Tara. So for QuickBooks Online, would it make sense to include do not over trust transaction classifications as suggested by the AI tool. And Tara, I don't know if you want to give clarification to that, or Mary, if you need clarification.
I think I just meant like under the data restrictions, is that what you're meaning? Or is it more just like people's access to the data that you're putting in or the type of data that you're putting in? Like, is that where we would put, specific to this app, please, be wise about this? Are they like tips or advice? Or is it more just like, no, you cannot input sensitive client data into this application?
Yeah. So, so in your specific area, you may choose that, hey, look, you don't ever want social security numbers to be entered into an AI anything, right? So, so you may choose to write that in here, right? Or you may say you want any information entered in, the client information entered in anonymously, like or that's not the right word, like without company name, you know what I mean? Anonymizing it. So that if for some reason that information went somewhere wasn't, it wouldn't matter because there's no name attached to it. So there are, but it depends, it's like, but it's not necessarily guidance as far as that's up above in the policy, that you have to make sure that it's accurate and true and correct, and that's a different part of the policy. Okay. All right. I think we are probably ready to move on to ban tools. So I have unvetted AI browser extensions, because within the browser, people don't think about the fact that there are extensions that just get added in pretty easily into your browser that have AI capability. And those, if they're unvetted, they're not allowed. And I want to say, really, anything that's AI that's unvetted is not allowed. Part of what I'm putting in here is to give you a process also of how to get things vetted, so that they don't have to do shadow AI. They can get the tools they want and need. They just have to go through the process, right? And then deep fake voice cloning platform. Again, if there's some marketing thing that you're really wanting to clone something or clone Buddy, you can actually, now you can have whole blog or and have it replicate your voice just by giving it text, and it'll do the whole thing. You can actually have interviews between two people. You can create your avatar and it looks like you. So there's so much that they can do today, but that kind of stuff is a little scary, because it's like, as it becomes more and more real, it's gonna, so use at your caution. Live.
So but kind of what you're proposing here, Mary, just to clarify, is just what their company direction would be with these different things.
Yeah.
What their intent is expressed.
Anything that's deep fake or voice cloning needs to be authorized through that next section, where we're going to create a compliance officer.
Got it.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Now we're going to get into your data. So these are the typical 3 industry standards for data classification. It's restricted, it's conditional, or it's public. there you may have another one. So think about your company information. Do you have something that is different? Maybe there's also a compliance level or something like that. I don't know. But we're going to go on the assumption that these are the three, but if you have another one, feel free to add it. And now I want you to start filling out this chart as to what kind of data do you have. And you're going to restrict it, or you're going to separate it by the fact that it's going to have different rules. And this may take a little bit of time. And if you've got very complex data with lots of different, maybe you'll get some of it done and not all of it. But go ahead and start writing what kind of data you have. And if you know whether it's going to be restricted, if I can get all of it, there you go, all of it, the same screen, restricted, conditional, or public. So client data can be complicated. Like I said, there's different kinds of client data. There may be some data that's kind of benign, and it's fine. I don't mind putting it into an AI. But there might be other information that you don't want. Be aware that client and vendor contact PII is also important. Like when I say contact PII, like a lot of times sales departments will save like people's birthdays. They'll save, how many kids they have, what their favorite color is, what do they like to eat best, or that kind of stuff to be able to develop a better relationship with them. And if you're saving that information, that's also perfect information for hackers. So that information helps them hack into people. So that is something that you may want to separate out differently. And then your employee PII, there's even more stuff that you're keeping about each of your employees. You've got your ID card, their insurance card, their social security number. All of that, again, is prime for hackers to be able to steal their identity. And then there may be, you may have project plans or accounting files, HR files. You may want all those things with different rules and regulations. And then obviously most people, for the public, your marketing department should be talking to AI. That's really the best way to build your search engine through AI, is to every day be talking to AI about what your organization is doing and what you're capable of doing for other organizations. And so you want your marketing department to have access to a free version so that they can be continually teaching AI about your organization and why they should be bringing your name up when somebody's asking about your services. I've talked enough. I'm going to keep moving on to these other fields. But if people have questions or in any of these sections, feel free to stop me. So condition of use. So obviously restricted, there's going to be no access. That's what that means, right? So really you're going to be doing the condition during these conditional sections. So what is your condition? So this is free access for your eyes only. So as long as the model is not learning from you and you're not sharing that information or the output to people that don't have the authority at that level, this one's like departmentally appropriate. There's and then this over here is like, maybe there's certain notes, like ensure that it's not given to someone that does not have access to that raw data. So that, what that means is, so you are working within the department, and you're building maybe some KPIs, and it outputs a dashboard. You're not going to want to share that dashboard with staff that don't have rights or shouldn't have rights to the information that's in that dashboard. Okay. So I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to finish filling that out. And again, just raise your hand when you guys are kind of done. I know this one's got a lot more potential work to be done. This part here, I know there's a lot to think about, but this part here is really what's going to make it powerful for your staff to know what to do and where they can put their information and how you want your information to be put out. This is where, if, like Josh had asked earlier, right? If you want AI to be able to connect into Outlook, do you want it to connect into your RFP system, your ticketing system, your QuickBooks, your financial system? What systems are okay for this to get connected to? And if you do connect it, like for us, we have documentation portals with all of our clients' security information. Like, whoa, what are we doing with that, right? Or ticketing system. There's so much efficiency that can be done within the ticketing system that you've got to be careful, because it also has confidential information in there. So,
All right, it looks like we're ready to
Getting
move
close.
forward, Mary. So
great.
on you.
All right. Actually, we're popping back to the presentation real quick. All right, so next is the governance and the gatekeeper. So, like I said, you're gonna assign a compliance officer today, and you're gonna get the IT information in there and choose, like in Appendix C, that's going to be that request form that I talked about. So here, we want to make sure that we put in process and let them know how to go about getting support, who's watching, who's managing this, and where do they escalate issues to. Go ahead and put your hands down so that I can have you raise it again later. So compliance officers first. Unless you're a larger organization, you probably do not have a compliance officer. And a compliance officer is typically somebody that has been trained in the laws and regulations around adhering to compliances. And you would know because they're going to be on you because they know their risk of not having you adhere to them. But if you do not have a compliance officer, it's probably going to be the CEO because it does hold legal risk. That's not really fair to assign to a receptionist or an office manager or something like that. They can still assist you with it, but you're going to take the responsibility of being the person. Okay. So if you want to say in there, if it has to be you, but you know you don't have the capacity, go ahead and write you are the compliance officer, but your assistant is going to be whoever. And so put in not just that, but put in your contact information and their contact information, right? And then who is your IT department, and put their email address in there. If there's a phone number, to put a phone number if it's. And then while you guys are doing that, I'm just going to kind of go through the chart. And I want you, as I do, I want you to think of some other scenarios or triggers that your staff may come into and need direction on what to do about it. So these are the ones that I've come up with is you want to utilize a new AI application. What do I do? Okay. You go and you fill out the form, which is Appendix C, and you hand it to the IT department. The IT department then assesses the vendor to see if they're a reputable vendor. Do they use, the best practices in their security tactics? And as is the accounting approve the actual cost? And then when it's installed, is it set up in a secure manner? And is it given to the appropriate people? So that is the suggested process for getting a new AI app. You suspect there's a data leak, or you potentially caused a data leak. This needs to be dealt with immediately. So they need to be aware that, it's much more important that we hear about it quickly. Otherwise, we can't reduce the damage that it's going to happen. So it needs to go to the compliance officer and the IT department. They'll work in unison together to alleviate as much damage as possible. There is below, I put in kind of a checklist of an incident response. So we'll talk about that down there. You discover a potential IP issue. Maybe somebody has infringed on your IP, or vice versa. You see somebody's output and material that is infringing on somebody else's IP. You want to make sure you let the IT department and compliance know about that too, so that they can resolve that issue, whatever it is. You identify that there's a critical error in AI. We all know that AI is not perfect. We all know that AI has hallucinations all the time. Well, not all the time, but they do have them. So at this point, send it to your supervisor. Your supervisor will see if it's something quick and easy that he can just resolve. But if not, the supervisor will know to work with the IT department to get the error resolved. But we definitely want to make sure that's, which is the next section, is, let's not quite section. The next thing we're going to talk about after the request form is the human in the middle, or human in the loop. So here's the incident response protocol. If you guys, any of you guys that are our customers, then you'll have a more in-depth incident response plan that actually has, a call tree and the whole process of what needs to happen when there is an incident. But this is at least the beginnings of what needs to happen, right? You've got to contain and isolate to keep from additional exposure. You've got to assess what the risk is, and then what's the remediation. A lot of times you may have to get a consultant for public relations if it's actually your data out there and or you've put data, somebody else's data out there, and it's a damage to your reputation. Sometimes you have to get a consultant to help you manage that message to the public. So remediations can be a wide range of different things. It can be, like I said, it can be a technical where the IT department is supporting it. It can be a relational thing as well. Here is the form that I talked about. This is a suggested form. You're welcome to change it up however you want. You're welcome to put it outside of this document for ease of use for wherever they want. But it at least gets you a starting point for what works for you guys. Okay. And then here we've got human in the loop. Like I said, AI does have hallucinations. Okay. It's not accurate 100% of the time. And these are kind of the responsibilities of your staff to be able to help make sure that we're putting out accurate information. So human in the loop is not just at the end, looking at the end result. It starts in the beginning. It starts in how you're prompting for your answers. Are you using best practices on narrowing in your search? Are you telling it, what kind of persona that it needs to think from? Are you telling it to either exclude certain sites if you're going out to the websites and only using reputable sites? I know sometimes when we search, you can say, please don't search any social media sites, because then you can remove the bias and those single person opinions and point it to, reputable places. That will help narrow down, straying information. But then you've got to monitor for accuracy, knowing that looking at like fact checking, right? You've got to look at the links that come with, and if you're not seeing links on any of your searches, that sometimes can be a sign that you're on a free version. So be careful of that. You want to make sure you're on a paid version and that they can be looking at those links to make sure that the information is coming from a reputable source. They should be trained on how to look for IP and whether they're infringing on somebody's information. And then bias and tone is important too. So is the output something that matches what your organization wants to put out. Okay, so I think I kind of covered that. Let's go back to the sheet. And then again here, what's in here is just a checklist for them to kind of remind them, hey, make sure you're doing fact check verification, make sure you're looking for the IP, make sure you're looking and outputting tone that works. Okay. When I was talking about the prompting, we've partnered with another organization that has certified trainers that we're now have that package to offer. So if people are interested in helping their staff learn how to do good prompting, and not just good prompting, but actually how to use the tools to their advantage. It's been we've actually are going through their training program, and it's allowed our staff to do amazing things. And we're already technical, so it would really turn your staff upside down.
Steal my thunder, Mary. I was going to talk about it at the very end.
Sorry.
The company is amazing.
I couldn't
so
help.
excited to talk about it. Yeah.
Well, you can talk about it in more depth. I'm just kind of
All
laying the
good.
groundwork for it.
All good.
It's
like you don't know what you don't know until you talk to those people.
Yeah. It's been pretty awesome.
But Tara's got a hand up, so I want to pause there for a second.
Oh, yeah.
I just had a quick on the IP, you know, the intellectual property. How trustworthy? I'm guessing not very, but like if you were to tell the AI agent, like, hey, can you scan the above suggested answer for potential IP, you know, issues? Is it generally like, will it look at itself and be like, oh yeah, this might be an issue, this might be a direct quote, you know, watch out for these ones? Or is it like, nah, you kind of can't trust them because that's exactly what they do, and they have a hard time recognizing that. So I know that like the point is that legally we as a user are responsible, but how good is it generally considered as far as looking at itself, or is that just too broad of a question?
It depends. All right, so let me say it this way. Yes and no. So yes, you can do that, and it'll probably give you, you know, get you most of the way there. But I know that like some of my cohorts in the IT industry, when they want to check things, and not just IP, but even checking code or checking the bot for improvements and things like that, they'll use a different, so they'll go over to chat and compare it to Gemini, and so sometimes that helps too, to get a different perspective. But it's still your responsibility as the user, right? You're still laying your reputation on the line by either doing that work or not doing that work. So take that with a grain
take it with a grain of salt is what I'm hearing. Like, yeah, you can have it, check it, but you're always
because the check could be wrong too, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, you know,
that was one of the things that our insurance person was very clear with us about, like, as we were starting to implement this, is like, it's great, it's a tool. Do not put anything out without the human viewing it in some way before it's pushed to a client. And so when I talked about the automations that we were doing, he's like, so where's the person? I was like, the person's here. The flow of information's all back here, but they're the blocker. And he's like, sounds good. Insurance is good.
Mhm.
It's all right.
Yeah. And while we're on the subject of insurance, it's good for you to realize that um, that you should be talking to your insurance provider about AI usage, because that's a changing um, landscape all the time. And depending on how deep you're getting into AI, there's different insurance. So creating these agents, so far, they seem to be kind of covering that sort of thing. But when you start creating applications, um, you may be into some different insurance. But if it's just internal, I don't know. I'm not an insurance guy, but you should at least talk to them and let them know what you're doing. Okay. Um, okay.
Just to clarify, Mary, so if you made a whole new business app using vibe code, you would need to talk to your insurance before you actually implemented that into your live business. Is that what you're saying?
Um, I would I would definitely want to talk to them. Yes. I don't know if you use it internally, whether it's different insurance, but if you're producing something for the client, that that is where that your insurance might change.
Got it.
Right. Okay. Um, so Peter, this is where I was going to talk about bring your own device and how that you may this section here is just going to be kind of a catch-all of other thoughts that people may or may not want to put into their policy, or maybe that they or it's things that you want to talk and or roll out externally around this. So we're going to talk about bring your own device and how that can affect things. Vendor, how that's changing with contracts and with vendors, and just survival safeguards. So let's go back to here. So we're almost done, guys. So yes, bring your own device definitely brings in some different conversation that we've got to figure out. If you have some people have just bring your own phones, some people actually have bring your own computer. And so if they've got their own device, not only are they going to have potentially your product, you've got to determine, is it okay for them to have your company apps on their phone? And if you do allow it, they're going to have their own personal accounts on there as well. So I would make sure that you're clarifying that they are not allowed to use their personal accounts on any company questions or initiatives, that it must be your personal company provided tool. Does that make sense? And does that now answer your question on the bring your own device, Peter? Okay. All right. And then third-party vendor mandates. There's things are kind of changing in this area too, like because everybody's using AI. You've got to think about what vendors do you have that you have confidential information. They have your confidential information. And so I would be reaching out to those vendors and saying, okay, what are you doing with my confidential information? And because it's probably not in your agreement with them what they can and cannot do. I believe that that's going to start happening. They're going to start putting that into your third party contracts is my data is not allowed to be put into your AI, or it is, but I need to know that you're safeguarding it appropriately. And I want to know that you're doing these certain things. But you should at least be having that conversation so that you know. There's so many people that are moving forward with AI because it's moving so fast. Not everybody has the right controls into place yet. And so you want to know that the people that have your data are doing it in a processed way, right? And then within your vertical, what AI things do you need to be transparent about using AI to your customers, right? So are there things that you want to be reaching out to them and saying, hey, look, we are using AI on our ticketing system to get better KPIs, to get a better solution for you. Or we are using AI in, like the example here is website chats. That's been around for years that AI has been doing those. Most of the time they say that you're talking to an AI. Videos, podcasts, like I said earlier, should those be identified that you're using AI to generate this? Should I say that my PowerPoint was generated by AI? Yes, I should, because that's what we're talking about. So anyway, think about that. And if there are, if it's within your organization, if there are things that you need to be transparent about, then you need to add that up above. You need to add it. Okay. All right, and then our last section here on the document itself is shadow AI deterrence. So a lot of this whole document is going to help you with shadow AI deterrence. But this is about your message to your people. When you are talking to them about why you have this policy, why do we have this process, why are you making them fill out this form to get their apps approved? It's not about red tape. It's about keeping the corporation safe. It's about, which drills down to keeping them safe. Like I said, there are things that are happening around this that are becoming legal battles. And you don't want your staff to be caught up in that. You don't want the company caught up, because if the company costs the company money, which may put their jobs at risk, but God forbid they're actually involved in it and they're in the court battle with you. It's not something to take lightly. So figure out how you want to word that and just let them know how serious you're going to take it. So what I want to wrap this up is into, okay, what now? I've got an AI policy. Remember I said there's security framework that needs to be put into place. And so there are things that your IT department needs to do. There's firewall blocking that can be done, locking down your enterprise workspaces. So choosing what platform you want to use. Are you going to use ChatGPT? Are you going to use Claude? And is that space locked down? Do people have the correct rights? Finding a way to track and audit what's happening. You can go as small as knowing what apps are installed And you can go as deep as what are they actually asking the agents, and track it down to that level. And then incident containment, having that incident response plan, having people know what to do, and make sure that there's a process around that. But that's just, again, Josh is going to talk about some of that, but and some of the other things that we're doing as a company that we're super excited about. So, and that being said, I'm going to not steal the rest of Josh's thunder and let him take over from here. Thank you
Yeah.
for listening.
So I had one more question from Lisa, maybe before Mary ends her talking. So does that apply to using agents in a web browser or only on installed apps? Clarification on that question there.
I'm assuming the whole policy is any AI. So the web browser apps are just as powerful in the web as they are if they're installed on your computer. So it does not have to be installed on your computer to do anything differently. So yes, it applies to both.
All right. And Lisa, did that answer your question there? If it didn't, feel free to unmute and let us know. Pause there for a second. All right. Okay. So, yeah. Thank you, Mary, for not stealing my thunder. So, this will be last chance. So, questions on anything that Mary had? Going once, going twice. All right. Thank you. So, kind of